Welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. I'm a shamanic Reiki therapist located in the Charleston, South Carolina area. Today's guest is Kris Rice. She is the CEO of Chill Pod, and she's an expert in cold plunging. So I'm excited to talk to her about all the benefits of that. And so welcome to the show, Kris.
Thanks for having me, Tina. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Sure, I'm happy to. So I am a mom to two young girls. They're not that young anymore. They're 10 and 13. And I have two girls and we live in Oregon. And a lot of my story and passion behind cold plunging really ties back to them. So my older daughter had a lot of mental health struggles when she was younger, very young. And so as I supported her and really helped her in finding her path to feeling better, I was able to recognize my own struggles with anxiety and overwhelm and perfectionism and all of these things. And so as I supported her, I started exploring my own things that I could do for my own mental well-being. And I found a lot of things that I loved. I love meditation. I love yoga. I love long walks outside. I love all of these things, and they take a ton of time. And so I really got to a point where I was like, great, I've got these tools that are able to support me and help me to feel better and more connected to myself. But at the end of the day, it was super defeating because I literally couldn't fit it all in. And if I didn't, I knew how I felt. And so from that space of just really not knowing what to do and feeling, like I said, rather defeated about it, I have a good friend who reached out to me and was like, have you tried cold plunging? And I was like, no. And I definitely don't want to. Like, I just don't. I hate cold water. I don't want to do it. And she was like, okay, cool, no problem. I just think it might help you. And so she kept on it, told me a couple more times. And we were talking one day and she brought it up again. And it was just one of those times where I was like, literally, what do I have to lose? Like, worst case, I really hate it. I never do it again. And away we go. Or maybe it can change things. And so it was from that sense of just curiosity. And I think hope that maybe it would be something to help me. I bought a horse trough off of Ace Hardware and I waited for it to arrive. And when it did, I set up a very DIY cold plunge situation in my backyard and filled it with hose water, didn't know anything different to do to make it colder. And even at that, the first time I did it, I was like, oh, I get it. This was the thing that I was missing. And so it really changed everything. It changed everything. It changed my career focus. It changed the way that I want to try and help other people and really bring more women into cold water. And I dreamt up Chill Pod from that crazy little horse trough. So that's me.
Wow. So how cold is the water? You know, when you do a cold plunge now, how cold is it?
So for me personally, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but I think it's a very personalized practice. So there is definitely not like one way to do it. So for me personally, I like the mid 40s. It feels cold enough that I definitely get that shock, but it's not too taxing on my system that I can't warm up and I can't kind of rebound from it. So for me, that seems to be the sweet spot. But just something to think about is technically cold therapy is anything from 40 to 60 degrees. So you've got a really wide range in there to be able to play with both time and temperature to really see what lands for you.
Well, I was close to cold plunging in Northern California when I swam in Lake Siskiyou, but it was 61 degrees.
I'm going to count that.
So I could actually do this. Like, I think I didn't spend a ton of time in the water just because it was so cold, but maybe I tried to stay in as long as possible for 10 minutes. Probably about 10 minutes.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it definitely
then
is.
I went to the head of the Sacramento River
Mhm.
up in Mount Shasta, and that water's 51 degrees.
I bet that's cold. I bet it's really moving too.
Well, it was like a little pool that they had
Mm.
built right at the spring that's coming out of the mountain.
Oh, wow.
And I
That's
stuck
cool.
my feet in the water, but oh, I could not keep my feet in the water for long. That was cold.
Well, that's fair too. That's something to think about too, is our hands and our feet have the most nerve endings. So, like, even to this day, I usually, unless the water's a lot warmer, I keep my hands out because they just take so long to come back. I can get the benefits without submerging them. So your feet are very similar. You know, you're like, okay, I'll start with just my feet, but really, that's actually a pretty bold step. It's hard.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in just water therapy.
Agreed.
And so for me, water is very important for me to be in water, whether it
Hmm.
be a lake, an ocean, a river, my bathtub, it doesn't
Yep.
matter, but like water is very healing and grounding for me, which makes me think of something actually.
Hmm.
When I was growing up in New Hampshire, my aunt had dug out this pool where there was some mountain water running through it, and she made
Hmm.
like a little pond, and it was only like 2 or 3 feet deep. So it was more like plunging, like going in.
Mm.
But I remember spending all day in that water,
Interesting.
and I'm wondering, was I cold plunging now? Like I've never thought of that till now.
Interesting. I mean, probably if it was cold mountain water coming off of there, and honestly, it probably felt super grounding and you got back in your body and you were flushing out any stress that you didn't need, and it's probably why you kept coming back to it.
That is so interesting. And I know I grew up in New York City, so it was a very stressful place to be
Hmm.
at any age.
Yeah.
And if you're a sensitive person like me, it's even more so. So thank goodness my parents took us to New Hampshire every summer, and
Yeah.
I was like in that water all summer.
Isn't that interesting? It's almost like you could like carry all of that for a while and then you had to flush it out in the summertime and like get it all out of your system.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
wonder if I didn't have that outlet, how would I
Yeah.
have been? How would I have
Hmm.
dealt with things?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
That
So,
is really
okay,
interesting.
I was close to cold plunging in Lake Siskiyou.
Like I said, let's count it. That is 1 degree.
1 degree. And then who knows how accurate the internet is when it comes
For
to
sure.
temperature.
For
It was
sure.
pretty cold because,
Oh,
you know, I,
yeah.
I'm familiar with the with my aunt's pond water. That was pretty cold. I would say it's probably in the 60s.
Hmm.
And the ocean up there too is cold in the
Yeah.
summer.
Yep. And the thing with natural water, especially if it is ocean or like a river that has some movement to it, your body doesn't get to build these little warm pockets around it. So your body just naturally does that if you sit in any kind of, your bathtub or anything like that. It's going to build these safe little warm pockets, but that never happens because literally that water is just brushing by your skin all the time. So it can't do it. So the temperature doesn't matter as much because it can just feel really different depending on the circumstances you're in.
Yeah. So, do you know and can you explain why this works and what's the science behind it?
Yeah, for sure. So it really comes down to regulating your nervous system. So, as you know, and I'm sure your listeners know, your nervous system has two ways of operating. It's either in rest and digest, and it's calm and relaxed, or you could be in fight or flight, and you're really like hyper vigilant and on the edge of just watching to see what's going to happen. And so, when the beauty of the cold plunge practice is that you're intentionally putting your body into fight or flight, but for a really small fraction of time. So what you're doing is showing your body, look, here's this stress, but we're going to get out of it really fast. And then you're going to learn how to come back from it time and time again. And so it really builds that resilience. And so much happens in that short little time that you're in the water. of balancing your hormones and flushing out stress by reducing your cortisol. There's a whole host of things that happen from that perspective too. But really at the root of it is your nervous system reset. It's able to flush out what you're not needing to hold on to, just like you experienced in that pool as a kid. And then you can go forward in the day. And what I am always astounded by is how that one little practice affects everything else. You know, no different than other practices we do, but when you're in that moment, you're very much in the present moment. I liken it a lot to meditation because if it's really cold, your mind is not wandering to other things. You're in that moment and you are with your body and your intuition, listening to what you need next. And so number one, you're honoring that. So you're having this conversation with your body and yourself to say, okay, do I need to get out? Do I need to stay in? What is best right now? And then you really are able to just ground yourself in it, come back out, and you are able to be more resilient in life because you've showed yourself you can do it in those 30 seconds to 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's almost like it shocks the system.
Yes.
And it snaps you out of whatever dysregulation you have or, you know, the thought patterns that you're having at the moment.
Yep, 100%. I feel like you'll get this, so I'll describe it in this way. Not everybody does, but like it always feels like a lightning bolt goes from my feet to my head, and it just feels like this electricity that comes and flushes everything out. And it always lingers at my head because I think there's more to probably flush out there. But it literally feels like a system reboot. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And so how long do you stay in the cold plunge?
So I personally go between about 2 and 3 minutes. For me, that's kind of the sweet spot too, but it took a lot of experimenting to find that. And so like if somebody's curious, has never tried it before and just wants to quote unquote dip their toes in it, then, you know, I would always start high on the temperature and low on the time. So maybe you do about 60 degrees for 30 seconds. And I always think most people are pretty surprised by what they're able to do, because when you put your mind to it that, okay, I'll just stay in for 30 seconds, that 60 degrees starts to not feel as intolerable. And you likely are going to surprise yourself by how long you can stay in.
So you're saying 10 minutes in that lake was a long time.
That's a long time. That's a really long time. But, you know, it's interesting. A friend of mine was like, you should experiment with doing a higher temperature, but for a longer time, which is literally exactly what you were doing. And he was saying, you know, anywhere from about 55 to 65, what if you stay in for 10 to 20 minutes? And it was very interesting. I'll be curious if you had a similar experience. When I do a really cold and short cold plunge, I feel the immediate effects. I get out and I'm ready to go. This one, it was like a slow boil. And so I was in there. Eventually at like 10 or 15 minutes, I was like, okay, I've had enough. I'm definitely cold now. I'm going to get out. And an hour later, my body just started shaking uncontrollably. So it's like it took a longer time for everything to happen, longer for me to get cold, and then longer for the shivering and that, you know, kind of biological response to happen. But it's interesting. And again, there's no right way or wrong way. You can do it however feels right.
Well, I know that I had spent the day kind of visiting waterfalls and walking around and getting nice and hot and sweaty. So,
yeah.
And I'm glad I went because that day I think it was a high in the 80s, and then the next day the temperature dropped. So I knew I wouldn't be going into the lake the next day. And I said, well, let me just go down here. It's like a 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
And I had my bathing suit on. And so actually I'm tougher than I thought, because I thought I didn't like cold water, but apparently that's not true.
It's not so bad.
My childhood would prove that that's not true.
No, I totally agree. And, you know, it's interesting. You just mentioned that the temperature was warmer, so it was like more desirable.
Yeah.
It's also, I personally, so this again might not be for everyone, but when the temperature is warmer, so here today it's like 100 degrees, I think it's harder to get in the cold water because there's more of a difference between the outside and that water temp. When it's actually winter and cold, I actually think it's easier because when you step outside, it's inherently like your body's already getting a little bit cold, and then that ease into the temperature is not so dramatic. But when you go from, 90 to 60, that's a big difference.
Yeah. No, I think being that hot for me is motivation to be like,
Sure.
hey, this is gonna cool me off instantly.
Yep. And like to your core, that's nice too. It's really good at regulating your overall body temperature.
Yeah. So one thing I have heard, and I know who knows what the truth is, but I have heard on social media that cold plunging might not be good for women because it might raise our cortisol. So what do you say about that?
I have gotten asked that a lot lately. It's definitely something circulating out there. So I'm always one to experiment. So I'll experiment on myself and see what that looks like. So when I heard that candidly, I was like, oh no, like if I've been doing it wrong all this time, I've actually been harming myself. Like I was kind of shocked by it, to be honest. So I was like, okay, I'll take that into account and I'll change my temperature and see how that feels. And so the whole theory behind that, in case somebody hasn't heard that, is that women's bodies are more adaptable and it's less stressful in the body to go high heat than it is to go low cold. So that's kind of the premise. And so I raised the temperature in my cold plunge, gave it a try, and I was like, well, this is not doing anything. So clearly, this is not for me. So I think to me, it just reinforced the fact that everybody's unique and everyone has their own right temperature, right time, and you can't classify it by gender. You can't say that. I genuinely don't believe that that is true. So
And
all due respect to those who put the research out there, but I don't think it's true.
I don't know what research they're doing because I don't think the video actually cited research. But I think with holistic healing, you have to try different things because everybody's different. And, obviously it really helped you. And so continue doing that if it helps you.
Precisely. Exactly. And I hate things like that are so black and white and say, hey, as women, you shouldn't do this. It's not good for you, because it does more harm than good. Like so many women do that. And as long as you're able to listen to your own body and have that connection with yourself, that's the power of the practice. Like if you're able to recognize, okay, at this point, my feet are too cold, I need to get out, then get out. Great. And when you don't, I've certainly had that experience of like, oh no, I want to stay in for this long, I'll do it. And then afterwards, I'm like, great, my feet take like 5 hours to warm up. I went too far. I'm going to learn from that. So I think going in with that just spirit of curiosity is much more helpful to everyone.
Yeah, and another interesting part of the story where I was swimming in that pond is I was very fearful of the woods because my grandmother and aunt lived basically off a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is like the opposite of New York City.
Yeah.
And I was always a sensitive kid and always like, oh my God, I would really feel things very strongly. And I would always, plus my aunt had all these animals that weren't very nice. So I would have like geese chasing me and like German shepherds trying to bite my head off. And,
oh no.
And so like being in the water, you would think by myself, which I think is kind of crazy now that my parents let me be there by myself all day. Maybe they were checking on me and I didn't realize it. But this was the 70s and 80s. But like in the water, I always felt safe. Once I was in the water, I wasn't thinking about what's in the forest or what is this animal going to do or anything. Like I completely lost all my fear.
There is something so, obviously it's an ancient practice, but it's such a spiritual practice too. I genuinely think that just the vessel of water, there is really something there to that. That for, I feel like for a lot of people, it really is like that reset that can allow you to let go of those things that those fears that really probably weren't helping too much. And you could be there, realize you were safe, and just continue on with your day.
Yeah. So maybe I was wiser than I even knew.
Seems it.
Yeah. I was just following my instincts or, my
Right.
intuition even then.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said your husband resisted the cold plunging and he eventually got into it. And how's that helped him?
Yeah. So he was definitely resistant to it. I bring lots of wild practices to our house, and usually they're met with like, okay. And so that was no different. And so he was like, great, you do you. You can do your little cold plunge, and away we go. And it was actually like right outside of our kitchen window. So you constantly looked at it. So it wasn't too long. I'd say within a week for sure that he was like, all right, well, maybe I'll just do it one time. And so he got in, and he has historically had a lot of back pain. Like for him, that's just where if stress is held in his body, that's where it goes. And he was able to recognize, okay, maybe this is an option that will kind of help flush that out, because it can be tough to move it through. And it has been the one tried and true thing that he's like, oh, nope, there's the stress again. Like when I go plunge, I know it'll flush out and I'll feel like new again. So it's been interesting because I feel like he's had more of the physical benefits from it, where I've had more of the mental benefits. And I think everybody experiences a blend of both, but you might just kind of find yourself leaning one way or the other, just depending on what your body's needs are.
Yeah. So how often do you do it?
So I usually go in about 4 or 5 times a week. Not too long ago, I heard a researcher say an interesting perspective on it that I really liked. So I'll see what you think about it too. And that was, instead of like a certain time and temperature and frequency in the week, doing it every day or whatever it is, they were like, try and expose yourself to 11 minutes of cold therapy a week. And so that just, to me, hit home, because I was like, well, that way you can literally do it twice if you want to do it twice, or you can do it in little increments each day, however that works for you. So that's where I go from. And I do between 2 and 3 minutes, I'd say 4 or 5 times a week. And I just, if I've had not a great night's sleep the night before, I'll oftentimes not do it because I know it's a little extra tax on my system. But as long as I'm filling up to it, then I'll go do it.
See, now I wish I lived close to a cold lake, which I definitely don't right now.
I know.
But I am going to Vermont, and there is a lake up there. So I will be going in there, thinking about all the benefits that you talked about, Kris.
I love it. Send a picture.
I will. What do you think about the whole, I know in the Scandinavian culture, they have this whole thing where they have the sauna and the cold plunge and the jacuzzi, and they would jump in, between them every few minutes. So
yeah.
And what are the benefits of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is such a wonderful practice. So it's really contrast therapy at the end of the day, right? You're going from one extreme to the other, hot to cold. And so I think it's a great practice. I think it's extra taxing on your system. So for sure, not something that I would recommend doing daily. If you can do it once a week, something like that, it's wonderful. I think that it's, from what I know and understand, it's really impactful because the heat will detox your system. So you're going to flush out all those toxins. And then literally when you go in the water, it removes them from your nervous system, from your body, all the things. So you really have kind of a dual action to kind of move it all out. So it's wonderful. And I think it's wonderful to be able to access.
Yeah. And speaking about warm water, that is one of the practices I recommend for sensitive, empathic people that they take warm baths with salt because the salt clears out your system energetically and physically.
Yeah.
And so often sensitive people are picking up on all these energies and feelings that are not theirs. And sometimes we take it on, subconsciously. And then the baths really help with that.
Totally. No, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. I love an Epsom salt bath at the end of the day. It's delightful.
And oftentimes when I have clients that I cleared a lot of energies from them, sometimes they feel the effects of it. They may feel tired. They may get a headache. And I've always said, take a salted bath after, or take a nap, or both.
All of the things.
So Chill Pod, tell me about that.
Sure. So as I would sit in my horse trough, I imagined ways to really, how could I bridge this gap from anyone I talk to is always resistant to cold plunging. Like nobody thinks it sounds fun, good,
because
anything.
I didn't even really, I thought cold plunging was even colder than 60 degrees. So
yeah. There's still a lot of room to help people understand what it is and how to use it, right? So the initial response is always like a wall of resistance of no, I don't want to do that. So I imagined while I was sitting there, and I just kind of dreamed up, like, what could it be? How could it be different? How could I help people to kind of bridge the gap between that resistance and being curious about it? And so for me, a lot of it came down to the human body and making a space that feels good for your body. It's an uncomfortable situation. If it's super cold, it's not going to feel exciting or good in that moment, but you will afterwards. So for me, with the Chill Pod, I just wanted to make it look and function really differently than anything I could see on the market. So for one, I wanted to make it beautiful. I wanted it to be something that up-leveled your space instead of being like an eyesore. The horse trough had a lot of commentary about it. So, how could I do that in a way that really created almost a piece of art, and then also to be able to really take into account all 5 senses. And we built a chair into it, which is one of the things I think I'm most proud of, because I think it's such a cool way to be able to make sure that your body is held and feels safe and you can get through this experience.
Okay, so it's something that you can buy and put in your home.
Exactly.
And you can adjust the temperature of it too?
Yeah. So also what I learned from the trough was how hard it is to maintain cold water. It sounds very simple. It sounds totally easy to do. And at the end of the day, it's actually super time consuming. So I would spend a ton of time and energy making these giant blocks of ice with my kids' storage bins. So I would take their storage bins and I would fill them with water and freeze them. And I used an entire freezer for it. Like, I was like, there's got to be a better way. Plus it gets gross and dirty from 2 humans using it. So with the Chill Pod, I wanted everything to be just done for you. You can plug it in and it just will keep it cold and clean at whatever temperature you want.
Nice. So you mentioned earlier that you try all sorts of wacky things. So what
I do.
what are your other favorite, holistic approaches?
Ooh, great question. I have so very many. I'll rattle off a few. I do emotion code work, which I love. So I have a gal that I do emotion code work with. Actually met her today. I love EFT tapping. I love meditation. I love acupuncture. I recently started playing around with sound frequencies, which I've done for a long time, but listened to a podcast about this app that like basically curates all these different ones that happen at the same time. And it has completely transformed my sleep. It's wild. So that's been pretty cool. So that's a smattering of the things that I love.
I know why you like EFT, because it's quick.
Yep.
And I noticed in the beginning of the episode, you said you were looking for a quicker way to regulate your nervous system.
Yep.
And EFT is really fast.
It is. It's so wonderful. I have done that for a number of years now, and we used it a lot on my daughter when she was younger. I would tap on her, and she really liked that. And it does. You can feel where the blocks are, and you can feel them go away quickly. I love it. I was doing that today while I was walking. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't thought about tapping on someone else like
yeah.
that. Yeah. I've done it
Yeah.
just on myself, or I've guided people to do it
Yep.
on themselves.
Yeah, we used to do it because she was just like hesitant to do that. She didn't love doing that on herself. And so, yeah, she would just lay back and I would do it on her, or she would do it on her stuffed animals too. And I'm always amazed that it works all the same. That's the crazy thing. It's wild to me.
Oh, so what does that mean? She like the stuffed animal was a proxy for her?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yep,
it's like
yep,
surrogate. Hmm.
yep. Yes, it works because
It
in
totally
Reiki,
works.
if you're familiar with Reiki, that's one of the methods to do
Hmm.
distance Reiki is you
Yeah.
use a proxy in place of that person.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, in the class, which I teach Reiki, we use teddy bears or a
Sure.
pillow, and that represents the person that you're
There you
sending
go.
Reiki to.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And yes, it works.
Yeah. No, it definitely does. I am not disputing you on that. It definitely works.
Yeah. So, just a couple last words on cold plunging. What would you like people to really know and come away with
Yeah.
this?
I always love to help people just move from that place of resistance to more curiosity. So if that description of kind of like just a wall of, I don't want to do that, there's nothing about that I want to do, I would just encourage you to imagine like what might be on the other side of that wall. What might there be that you're like, oh, I can't even imagine feeling like that, or my life including this, or whatever those like wave a magic wand and here's what it could appear. Because I really, really believe when you have a connection to why you want to do this hard practice, there is a part of you that's going to hold on to that and it's going to take it into the water. And because you are so in the present moment, I really think it aligns you to those things. It helps you draw them in more easily, and you'll start to maybe never like the cold water. I still don't like it. I still don't want to actually go in it. But I know that on the other side of that, on the other side of 2 minutes, is the way I actually want to feel. And so I would just encourage you to move past like, maybe you'll never actually like the cold, but maybe you'll absolutely love all the things it could open you up to when you kind of get out of your head, get in your body, and can move out the things that are holding you back.
Yeah. So, in the end, try it.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even know I was cold plunging. So maybe you've been doing it for a while. Like I didn't even think that counted, but apparently I've been doing this for a while.
Since childhood.
Since childhood. I did it a lot.
Yep.
So, and I'm still doing it because I just went swimming in that lake and that was around at late June. So it wasn't too long ago.
No,
So,
exactly.
Kris, can you share how people can contact you and get more information about the chill pods?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So you can go to thechillpod.co to check out all the details about it. That is also the handle on Instagram. So the chillpod at chillpod.co. And then if you want to follow along with me, kind of hearing my behind the scenes, real life, founder life, all of those things, you can follow me at Kris Rice Wellness. And that is also on Instagram. And it's Kris
All
with a
right.
K.
Well, thank you so much, Kris, for being on the show. And I hope listeners out there are more open and willing to try cold plunging now. It seems to really help people and very quickly.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful. So I hope we've provided like a little invitation to give it a try, and there's no wrong way to do it. Just take tiny baby steps towards it and see where it goes.
Right. Thanks, Kris.
Thank you for having me.